The Intellivision Amico either lives or dies by their own hands. Nothing I say or anyone else says holds any bearing on its success. How does that work, you ask? The burden is all on them that generate interest in this product. What they do will dictate how people perceive and speak about the Amico. We can only base our judgments on the Amico by what we've been shown and how the company presents itself. Criticism's a good thing. It sparks conversation. Sometimes can even wind up causing positive changes that benefit everyone involved. Just because the Amico isn't out doesn't mean we cannot have opinions on what we have been shown so far. Now, there are several types of people you come across when it comes to the topic of the Intellivision Amico. Those who could give a shit, those who've never even heard of it, those who are rightfully critical of it, those who will shit on every facet of the product for the sake of liking to shit on things, those whom are just straight up legit excited, then those who lick the Intellivision taint and will defend the console at all costs. Fanboys, crazy fanboys. I think that last category, it winds up being a part of every hobby, every fandom. You have those crazy fanboys. But with this situation, in my eyes anyway, it's pretty clear a lot of the taint lickers are a product of Tommy Tallarico's online presence. By him being easily approachable and really interacting with the community more so than most, I mean, it's a good thing, but for some, kind of messes with them, messes with their head for some reason. I feel, he's been involving himself in discussions with many people, including YouTubers, influencers, if you will, big, small, everywhere in between. And I feel some of these people, they've been starstruck. They're blinded by someone who could be considered famous actually talking to them. If you're offended by that statement, realize you are the one who decided I was referring to you. I listed my categories. If you want to participate, you get to choose which table to sit at. So now that my opening monologue is out of the way, which I normally don't do that kind of thing, but hey, it is what it is. I'm sure a bunch of people have disliked the video and bounced by now, and that's cool, because now we can get right on into it and discuss what I want to talk about. Obviously, we're discussing the Amico. There's a lot of crazy crap going on today that kind of sparked this interest in my brain to finally come back and talk about this thing. It's been a while. So today I want to talk about my concerns, what I really think about this device. This article, a little bit, I'm not going to read this whole thing. It's long as heck. Just want to comment on a couple things here. But this was sparked because I saw this tweet from this Frank Cifaldi feller. Somebody retweeted this and I just came across it. There's so much to unpack here. This rules. So Tommy Tallarico, since he's deleted this tweet, he was coming at Ars Technica or whatever, a journalist, Sam Red, for illegally posting a bunch of confidential information about the Intellivision in his ridiculous misinformed article. So he threatened legal action. All this was deleted from what I've seen. And the article that he's referring to is this one right here. What the heck's an Intellivision Amico? Console's leaky dev portal offers hints. Creators compare Intellivision. They compare the $250 crowdfunded console's power to a chip from a $100 2016 smartphone. What? So this article, I did see it earlier when it first went up, or around when it first went up, and it had those documents, everything listed on here. Since then, since Tommy threatened them, maybe they just were like, screw it, we'll just take it down. We don't want no problems. They removed those documents, but they do discuss all that stuff still in this article. So I'm not going to read this thing. I just want to go through a few things that I want to discuss. And part of it I've already mentioned in my monologue anyway. Handpicked fan YouTube channels. That's all they're talking about. Part of this is, there's not a lot of positive press out there other than these handpicked people. Some of them may be those taint lickers that I was discussing earlier. And also they mentioned, I don't think this is a huge deal, to be honest with you, as the stock photos. Yeah, it looks kind of ridiculous. I always hate these stock photos with this awesome, family all enjoying themselves with the controllers that obviously don't belong in their hands playing these games. But a lot of companies use stock photos. I don't care. This doesn't change my mind one way or another with the Amico. I just don't care about stock photos. Like, it means nothing. It means nothing to me, okay? But they were talking about, like, Tommy Tallarico got a little defensive. And you know what? I like Tommy. I don't personally have an issue with him. I think he's a cool dude. He's passionate about the things he does. He's passionate about his company, all that stuff. He gets a little defensive, maybe more so than a lot of people. But you know what? I mean, it's human nature. I'm not going to fault him for that. But that does play into stuff that I was discussing with, the perception people have. I mean, you're the Intellivision Amico. You're the face of it. And people will see that. And, some may be rubbed the wrong way. For me, a lot of that stuff, even with this, his threats and all that, didn't really change my mind. Like, I already had a set frame of mind of what my concerns are, what I really think about this device, right? These guys are also talking about the gameplay from the E3 demo stuff they showed, looking really simplistic and stuttering. I watched that video over and over. I don't know if the stuttering was from YouTube or that's actually how it was. But yes, that is a huge concern, is the price point and the other options out there. We're going to discuss that a little bit more in a moment. So they talk about how they made a comparison to the ZTE Z Max Pro as being a good benchmark. And it's a really old phone, $100 unlocked phone. That's kind of crazy, man. We all knew the specs on this thing for a while now weren't going to be great, but it's really what you're doing with it. And they have limited themselves with this thing, in my opinion. And they purposefully limited themselves for multiple reasons. They also talk about, like I said, I'm just going through this real quick because I really want to discuss what I want to discuss. But right here, they're talking about the controller having 1 megabyte of on the system on a chip within it, and how that limits things, and how the developers from all this Portal stuff they looked at, that they don't know the battery capacity, and they're telling them how to preserve battery life by shutting off certain features of the controller if the game doesn't need it. So their assumption is that maybe the battery life isn't that great. We don't know. I mean, that's just something to ponder. You know what I mean? This, oh my God, we're gonna circle back on this. The 10 Commandments of game design, I think, is redonkulous. The quality control scale is one of the pretty much commandments almost, where nobody knows what the hell it means. They're talking about how there's 3 tenets of it: sensible, simple, and fun. But then who, as far as quality control, it's up to what they decide is sensible, simple, and fun on if it gets a 7 or higher out of 10 on the Intellivision quality control scale. Kind of weird stuff there, man. Kind of weird. The profit margins, we're going to talk about that in a moment. But that looks to be mostly it, other than this big one down here. This just talking about developers that are involved and the profitability. We're going to touch on that more in a moment. But I'll link to this article so you could read through the whole thing. The Amico is supposed to come out October, but it looks like it may be delayed again, as they hope to begin production by July. But who knows, out of their hands. So we'll have to wait and see. Don't be surprised if there is another delay, right? This other one, which struck me more interesting than most of the things discussed in here, is talking about people involved with Intellivision. So they're saying, for starters, questions linger about the team behind the console's creation and production. In one example, Intellivision trumpeted its hiring of original Xbox chief Jay Allard as global managing director back in May 2020, saying he would take charge of a wide variety of operations that are critical in launching the Amico. He left months later, saying he's just not a good fit. And then in response, they state Tommy Tallarico alleged that Allard was still involved. I tried to find follow-up on that. If anybody has any information saying that Allard did come back or is consulting or doing anything, let me know, because I couldn't find anything. But this article from Ars Technica, they also state the Amico team could be in regulatory hot water if its timeline and association with Jay Allard isn't resolved. A March 2021 video presentation to angel investors, which was recorded after Allard's last public statement about the Amico, includes a pledge that the co-founder of Xbox has been making huge contributions. So essentially that could be selling a lie if he wasn't part of it at that time. If he was part of it and then left afterwards, okay. I mean, you can't control those things sometimes, right? But that could spell some issues here. That could spell some issues. So the things I wanted to touch on as far as how I really feel with this and my concerns. So I've been looking at this thing. I pre-ordered one way back, and then I canceled it. I changed my mind for one reason or another, and then I wound up pre-ordering it again. I'm like, okay, I want to reserve, even right now, I want to reserve final judgment until I have this thing in my hands and I actually get to play it. But seeing what I've seen, hearing what I've heard, tasting what I've tasted, everything out there has definitely shaped, my mind with a lot of things. Am I looking forward to the device? Only in the sense that I'll get to share my actual thoughts and experiences with you guys. As far as having this console in my home and playing it with my family, no, I'm not excited for that whatsoever. Let's not kid ourselves. Who is the target market for this device? Who is it made for? Intellivision, they say this is a family-friendly device. This is a system for families, for the children's. Can't we think about the kids, right? We got to get them kids some games that they could play. Now, that confuses me, but then again, a lot of this, what I'm going to talk about, is Intellivision themselves deciding this is how they want their device to be marketed, and that's on them. I didn't make that up. Nobody else made that up. They're limiting themselves. They are limiting themselves by choice, and I think that could be very detrimental to this whole project here, in the sense that I have 3 children, and I just have to be upfront. I grew up with the Atari 2600. I don't like the Atari of today. I don't really have a lot of nostalgia for Atari of way back, even though that's what I had initially. I just don't think those games aged well, so I'm not an Atari fanboy by any means. I did not grow up with an Intellivision, and a lot of people didn't. It sold very well when it initially launched, then it kind of tapered off, and I mean, the company behind the Intellivision, the original Intellivision, they only released one other console after that. I'll let you guys figure that one out. Holy crap. But it sold decent for a short while, and then it just, nothing, right? It did respectable numbers for its time, I suppose, but it sold a bit over 3 million units. So nowhere near what, other consoles did during, the 80s and 90s while this thing was still in production, right? So I think the nostalgia is going to be limited, and there are going to be people out there who have nostalgia. I just don't, because I never played it. I didn't even really know what an Intellivision was back in the 80s and 90s. So they're saying this is for families, but kids, including my kids, who have grown up during this age and know what a Nintendo Switch is, know what a PC is, know what an Xbox and a PlayStation is. When Christmas comes around, are they going to be like writing Santa Claus, I want an Intellivision Amico? No, they are not. This is being marketed to grown-ass men and women, the women's too, whoever grew up with this thing and have nostalgia for it, the name, right? They have nostalgia for the name. It's not the same company. It's not the same people involved for the most part, but there's that nostalgia for the name. So it's being marketed towards them. And I see the only kids playing this are the dudes who are, 40 years old plus, who have nostalgia for this, forcing it on their children. And, maybe they'll enjoy it, maybe they won't. So, I mean, I really think on that end, Intellivision's limited themselves by choice, by the hardware design with the low-end specs that we've been pretty much aware of, and by their vision of who the target market is, and by the price that they're launching it as. What other choices are there available for families? There's tons of them. And there's ones within the same price range. The Xbox Series S, the Nintendo Switch, they all fall into that category. Saying budget friendly, well, I mean, $250, you throw another $50 on it, I think it still falls into the same category. It's very close. It's very close. What family? There's going to be families who do want this and enjoy it, but to me, in my opinion, not just from my own kids, but other kids I've seen, if it ain't Roblox, it ain't Minecraft, Genshin Impact, Super Mario, stuff on the Xbox, they're not that interested. So, I mean, who's going to actually buy this thing, and how long will that be sustained? That leads me to this other part. Will developers find success on this system? And in this article earlier, they were talking about profitability, essentially. With these 10 commandments, every game must be rated E or E10 plus. Every game must be playable with very little instruction. So we're talking very simple games. Every game must be balanced to allow players with different ability levels to still have fun. There's nothing wrong with any of this stuff that I'm reading. It's just they've limited themselves by design. That's who they want to target. But will they be successful with that? Every game must rate 7 out of 10 or above on the quality control scale, which who knows how that's going to work. Every game must cost less than $10. This right here might sound awesome for a lot of people, but then at the same time, this article also quoted where Tommy Tallarico was talking about how Intellivision, like when they're talking to investors, that their profits on a sold game, that they're going to take a 50% cut. Is that 100% true? I don't know, but a 50% cut is ruthless. That's crazy. A developer who has to put a game that is exclusive to this console, they get half of that. They have overhead. They have employees, even small indie developers. How many games are they expected to sell? How many copies of that? That's why you'll see on the Nintendo Switch, there's tons of indie developers on there. And there's some that are successful, some that they probably don't make anything. But a lot of these guys, they're putting their games on multiple platforms because they need those eyes out there. If nobody's buying it on the Switch, well, I hope they're buying it on Steam. I hope they're getting it on the Xbox, that kind of thing. So they could put those potatoes and bacon and jelly beans on their table and feed their family. You know what I mean? So I don't know how profitable this is going to be. This is yet to be seen. How profitable is it going to be for developers for this console? Every game must support the official controllers and cell phones, essentially, because you could use their app and mimic the controller. Every game must be 2D or 2.5D. 3D models are okay, but not free roaming 3D worlds. That strikes me as odd. Is it just because it's too complicated for the children to play 3D world roaming games? Or is it the hardware can't support it and they don't want, anything weird happening, right? Every game must be an Intellivision exclusive. Even ports must be unique in some way. And this is going to be very harmful. Very harmful. Will this thing sell when it first comes out? It probably will, but how long is that going to sustain, like I said? And how long are developers going to be profitable on this to where they continue developing for it? They're going to put games on here, and then they're going to port them elsewhere. There'll be a Amico version, and there'll be an even better version, a more exclusive version everywhere else, because they got to make their money. You know what I mean? No in-game purchasing or DLC, which is fine for the most part, but that, I don't like the loot box, the gambling aspects of things, but then at the same time, I'm looking at it as a consumer. Developers will be looking at this as there's going to be no after purchase. There's no way to sustain, putting an add-on. I'll just have to put a whole new game type of thing. This is all a business. You have to remember, Tommy Tallarico's not your freaking friend. Intellivision Amico is not your friend. It's a business, and businesses are made to make money. This isn't for the betterment of humankind. This is to make money, to be profitable, right? Every game needs to incorporate multiplayer, two-player. Okay, fine. Those 10 commandments there. So my concerns is just it's like the Ouya, and I know plenty of people will compare to the Ouya. The Ouya came out. I got one right when it came out. And there was that new car smell to it. Holy shit, this is cool. And then short time after, it was the fuck is this, right? Same thing with the Atari VCS. It came out. The potential seemed to be there. They haven't done jack shit with it after 6-7 months, And looking at it, it's it was neat at first, but then that wears off right away. If it wears off, people aren't talking about your product anymore. Word of mouth isn't out there. You don't have killer apps coming out. You got Earthworm Jim, which is that really going to force people to want to buy this thing? They may forget about it by then. Will that resurge sales of the device? Maybe, maybe not. It's just a big thing, and it's like I said, it's a business. So you have to look at for how long this will have a lifespan, how many developers will develop for it. It's going to depend on the profitability, how many people have these in their hands and are actually willing to buy games. Because say 100,000 people buy them on day one, not every single person is going to buy a ton of games. A lot of people may just play the pack-in games and then decide it's not for them, right? They might shelve it. They might post it on eBay, get rid of it. You get rid of it, now the profitability for that person like for Intellivision, from that person who bought it off of eBay, is just going to be reliant on software sales. Are they going to play the pack-in games and decide this isn't for them? Maybe they spend $10 once. If the attach rate of games to consoles is only like 1 or 2 purchased games, then it's shelved. This thing is going to go under, and it's going to go under within a year after it's launched. I personally don't want to see that happen. I wish for the success of these people, but from everything I've seen so far, the games, the presentation of everything, it's just not for me. Maybe it's for you, but it's not for me. I know there's a lot of criticism out there. Oh, these look like mobile games. You want to know why? Because they are mobile games with a new like added thing to it, right? Some of the games are just freeware that's already out there, like the Sesame Street stuff. But there has to be something added to it to make it exclusive. And I think that's going to be damaging to this system in the long run. Underpowered is a problem, but not the biggest problem. I think these commandments might be kind of burning it a little bit, if you will. So those are my thoughts. I'm not that excited for this thing. I want to get it in my hands and share with you guys, or myself, or my family. Now, could this like sit side by side in brotherly love with the rest of my systems? It's a possibility. But then I have to think about it. The realization hits, and I'm guilty of this, just like many other people are as well. You buy things, and then you wind up neglecting them because it's the weakest of the bunch. Like your tension. Like, how do you divide your tension between everything? I have this feeling that it's going to be like the middle child, of consoles. I'm going to look at it every once in a while. I might turn it on, see if there's anything new, and then I'm just going to not bother. And eventually it's going to get sold. It's going to get disconnected, put up somewhere, that kind of thing. It has me worried. It has me concerned. I wish the best for these guys. I hope for its success. I don't want it to fail, but I just have to be realistic with what I've been seeing. Now, I know this is a long video, but I did say we were going to talk about that Twitter poll. Now, I did look at the results because it was a very short poll. The results were kind of what I expected, but I have not read the comments as of yet. I might have kind of seen a couple of them, but I didn't really read anything. I wanted to go through this. So my poll was, are you excited for getting the Intellivision Amico? And I said the poll and comments will be shown in future video. That video is now. Yes, we got 8%. Not too many votes because I only let this run for like an hour or so. 8%, yes, that was the weakest vote. No, 59.8%. Waiting on reviews, 15.2%, and then wasn't even on my radar. My thought with that was like, you don't even really know about it. You haven't really heard about it type of thing, which I would imagine there's going to be quite a few people out there. But wasn't on my radar outweighs the yeses. Now, polls don't necessarily mean anything. Especially, you gotta poll everybody. You can't just have that sample size and think it means anything. It really doesn't, not in my opinion. But I still was curious what people who follow me, who are actually willing to participate, what do they have to say? How are they going to vote? And the no's far outweigh everything, way higher than some people would hope for. But it's just the way it is, man. The interest just isn't quite there. That doesn't mean it won't be successful, but it could be troubling. So let's look at some of these comments. So Haster, hey store, I love the original, have 3 and the add-ons, but this seems like another, if a little better, take on the Ouya VCS method. Even if it's amazing, I wouldn't expect enough developers to bet on it for many exclusives. I can't play on something better. That's kind of my thought as well. I mean, my biggest concern is developers. Who cares about the hardware? Are people going to be continually making games for this thing? And then, I saw earlier that they have like the controllers posted for almost $100 on like GameStop. Like, come on now. Holy crap. That's ridiculous. Pabst. My boy Pabst. Consoles like this always look cool, but I haven't known one to be a success. Yeah, I had to think about that for a half a second. And yeah, I mean, these little quirky things, there's been a few, but none of them really have had a lasting impact. It's a blip in time, just that moment. And that's it. I'll be happy to wait and see what happens. If it does well, they will make more. If it flops, I save myself a lot of money. There you go. I feel them on that one. Gamer 1 and 2 review. Ever since the initial announcement of the Amico, I've been having occasional email conversations with the staff and Tommy. I have to say that I can tell that they care about their fans and their project. They care about money. I mean, I don't want to get deeply into this. I think about it all the time, but humans by nature are selfish. And that's not necessarily a negative thing, but they care about their project because they want it to be successful, because they want it to be profitable. You don't make a product for like the betterment of mankind. Like, people are just too selfish for that. And this is a gaming device. We don't need gaming devices. It's a want, and they want to make money. So I don't know. I kind of beg to differ on that. They care. They care about those dollar signs. That's for sure. They care about maybe the perception, what people think, and that's why they're very defensive. But do they actually care? I argue no. So he states, I placed an order for the wood grain Founders Edition, which I will proudly have next to my first gen television. So see, this guy, he has a first generation Intellivision. He has nostalgia for it. I'm not knocking this guy whatsoever. When he gets that, I don't think this system's a scam. I know it's going to come out, but it's just when, with these delays, everything going on, when he gets this thing, I hope he's happy with it. I hope he enjoys it. Like, I don't want people to be like, oh, this is garbage. If it's garbage, that sucks. I don't want that. I want it to be awesome. Maybe not for me, but I want it to be good for other people. That's just the way it is. Fucking Frankie here. Hi, YouTube. Oh my God. Super Nintendo. I got the Founders Edition on pre-order. See, I had the Founders Edition, the wood grain. I canceled it. I just didn't like the way it looked. And people like, oh, you didn't like the way it looked? Yeah, motherfucker, I didn't like the way it looked. So I canceled it. Oh, my house, my toys, my money. It'll be more of a collector's item right next to his VCS, Virtual Boy, and Ouya. Yeah, all three of those. The Atari VCS is too early to say it's a complete failure, but myself owning one for the longest time and then like booting it up for the first time in like 5-6 months and seeing that there's absolutely nothing on the shop from the first time I booted it up, just a bunch of mobile games. Yeah, that thing's fucking dead on arrival. What the hell? But yeah, all three of those consoles, we'll see, man. We'll see. John Riggs, Lil John Riggs, Lil Johnny John Riggy Riggs, played it at E3. I had fun playing with friends. Looking forward to seeing the finished product. Back to Founders Edition. We'll see. We definitely will see, John Riggs. We will see for sure. Brutus Beef Dick and the Summer Begins. What the hell is your name? Not me. After that Twitter BS, look, gaming journalists are the nut low of the lowest by getting made because one mad, I'm assuming he meant mad, getting mad because one journalist actually used research and public pics. Tommy had to get really butthurt and threaten legal action is dumb. I think I heard, I haven't looked it up yet, but I think I heard that Tommy apologized. If he didn't, I'm sorry that I said that, but I thought I heard somebody say that he apologized for the little meltdown earlier. I don't know. We'll see. John Riggs, Tommy's a buddy of mine, but I'll even admit he's like the Italian Jim Cornette. He can't change his mind. He's a buddy to everyone on the internet. He's a buddy of mine too. I like Tommy, man. I like Tommy. Travis Preble, canceled my pre-order because the games just weren't there for me. All it would have taken for me to stay in would be an Intellivision Classics collection running on an emulator that could interface with the new controller. But it's not exclusive to the console. They have to have exclusive stuff going on here, but I understand what he's saying. Some people, they want that. They want that. Father Hedgehonic, it doesn't look like a bad piece of hardware, but none of the games grab my attention. That's part of the problem for a lot of people, I think. Feels like it would have been better competitor for the Wii than the current consoles. Yeah, I mean, if it would have came out during that time and it was cheaper than the Wii, maybe, but the Wii was already priced like very low at that time. CD quality graphics, I genuinely hate online multiplayer. Anything in the Amico feels right up my alley. Couch co-op. That's something I've seen a lot of people say. And if that's your thought, like, hey, I don't like the games of today. I don't like online, and like every game's online nowadays. And you just want stuff like that, couch co-op. This may be for you. This may be for you. That was part of what my interest was, is like, simpler times, man, simpler games. But then I just have to look at like, do these games really appeal to me? And a lot of them don't. 99.9% of them don't. Unfortunately, maybe that will change in the future. We'll have to wait and see. But that was the appeal to me. The simplicity of some of this stuff, like, hey, better times, simpler games. I don't know. I definitely could see people thinking that, and that's why they want it. And that's cool. The Backlog Odyssey. I didn't even know it was a thing. I'm curious to see what it's all about now. Zavin, I'm curious to see if the physical media turns out to be true. Seems like games might just be an RFID card that lets you download, which would be useless when the servers go down. That's exactly what it's going to be. Just like the card with the money on it. It's just, you just plop it on the system and it reads it and downloads it. Like, that's all it is, RFID card. But if it somehow could work in a cave with no Wi-Fi, it's just not gonna work that way. But if it did work that way, he'd pick one up from the bargain bin in a year. That's exactly what it is. It's card, amiibo, booklet, a box. It's RFID. The console needs 18 more months, though. It's not close to being ready, and they're being dodgy as fuck about it. Drink a beer and play a game. I didn't want one before, but now that it's really looking like a disaster, I want one. Wow. For historical purposes, Joypad Lad. And now we'll make it an accidental success. That happens sometimes, man. There's no bad press. I don't know. Is that true? R9 Delta. No, there's nothing it offers for me that Switch doesn't buy almost every metric. I feel you on that. A lot of people agree. Max Frischberg. I don't trust anything about it. Too many red flags, especially after today's article. But you better believe I'll check out all the reviews out of curiosity. So I'm excited about that. And I'm excited to share my review once I get it. And I'm not just going to take a big fat dump on it and say it's garbage. I'm going to play it and give my honest impressions, which I think a lot of people who watch my channel know that's what I do. Nate, the AKA Retro Gaming Dev. Honestly, my nostalgia for the original is giving me hope, but it is looking rough. I hope they pull something fun out of it. And I think that's fair. That's like one of the most fair comments I've seen. You know what I mean? Hoping something awesome happens with it. Things are looking a little crazy right now. Could be turned around. So guys, long ass video. Really appreciate you hanging out with me on this one. Thanks for hanging. Probably said that 5 times now. Big ass thumb butt in your face. Blurry like a Bigfoot, kinda. I don't know. Thank you, and I will catch you on the next one. Let me know what you think down below. Peace out, bye-bye, and boom.